Hello, welcome to Dundros Podcast. I'm your host Justin. Today I'm reviewing the new Nicolas Cage film Prisoners of the Ghostland, which is a 2021 crime action movie, and it's an hour and 43 minutes. The the movie I think is supposed to take place, I could be wrong, is supposed to take place in like in a colony or something, or like there's like a sci-fi esque tint to this movie. I'm not 100% sure on that. Because they said some stuff that implied that like it's like an Earth colony, right? But like like outer space and stuff. So I could be wrong, but that they said some stuff that implied that. So this is a Sion Sono film, who's a Japanese director. I heard from my friend, not only Hollywood, who reviews mostly like Asian movies, but he also reviews like cinema from like India, like other foreign countries, right? And he's from Norway. So like yeah, he told me. I asked him. What are some, like, is Sion Sono a good director? And he's like, it depends. And I'm like, what do you mean it depends? It's like, he said like, oh, how do you feel about Rob Zombie? Because he's basically the Rob Zombie of Japan, which, I'm a little mixed on Rob Zombie. So the movie stars, it's a mixed cast of Western actors and Japanese actors, because obviously it's a Japanese film. Which I'm not sure where this film was filmed, because they said like the city, they had special thanks to like the city of some Japanese town, and then there's like there was also special thanks to New York, and the film looks like it was shot in like the like California, like in the California desert or Hollywood Hills. So I have like no idea like where the fuck the film's supposed to be shot in, right? So the movie stars Nicolas Cage as the hero. It should be anti-hero because he's kind of a scumbag in this movie. You have Sofia Boutella as Bernice, Bill Moseley, the governor. Bill Moseley, which was so funny that not only Hollywood brought up Rob Zombie, because Bill Moseley is a longtime collaborator of Rob Zombie. He was in like the House of a Thousand Corpses, Devil's Rejects, and Three from Hell, which I still haven't seen. Three from Hell. I wasn't a huge fan of Devil's Rejects, to be honest, right? And you have a bunch of actors. Google says Mugen Poots, Ed Skrein, and Nick Caviezel is in the film, which I'm pretty sure that's not true. I didn't see anybody who looked like Nick Caviezel. Maybe he's so old now. It might have been him. But like yeah, I didn't see anybody who looked like Ed Skrein or Imogen Poots. So like other actors you got here is Japanese actors, Takedo Yamamoto as Takedo, Tak Sakaguchi as Yasujiro, who is like the main henchman of the governor, who's his badass like bodyguard. Kanon Iwata as Nancy, and Tetsu Watanabe is in the film, who you'll notice as like a character actor from Japan, who was in Shin Godzilla, and he's in a bunch of Japanese films. Right. So yeah, so the story for the film is basically, and like one complaint I do have about the film is that there's like, the movie is like non-linear at times, so there's like a huge time skip in the film, and they don't tell you about it. So like, the film is like basically Nicolas Cage and his friend rob a bank, right, in Samurai Town, which they didn't tell you it's in Samurai Town because it looks completely different. Because everybody in this bank is dressed like the 1960s, right? And everybody and Samurai Town looks like they're dressed in like Japan pre the black boats or whatever, if you know what that means, right? Before Western influence, right? He started taking a sip of Dr. Pepper, and he basically gets arrested for doing a bank job that went wrong. His partner killed a shitload of people, including this little boy who was buying gumballs, right, and offered some to the psychopath and gets gunned down. And Nick Cage turns on him, right, and gets arrested, right. So there's a time skip, which they don't tell you about the time skip. And he gets recruited by the governor who runs Samurai Town, who's a cowboy, right? And this movie feels a lot like the Japanese film Sukiyaki Western, which was Sukiyaki Western Django, sorry, which was a Japanese film. I forget who did it, but which was like a Japanese film that was an homage to Django. So you had like all these Japanese actors dressed up as cowboys, and it was a Western, but they spoke English. Here, it's kind of like that, but like where you have like a lot of Japanese actors speaking English, right? That though there's some Japanese actors who speak Japanese, and then there's no subtitles, but everybody can understand what they're saying, right? Which that sucks, right? So he gets recruited to find the governor's granddaughter, which you find out is not actually his granddaughter. He's a pervert of some kind with a grandpa fetish, right? Despite having a harem of beautiful young Japanese women, right? And he makes this movie has pretty much the same premise as Escape from New York, right? Where he makes Nicolas Cage strip and get naked in front of everybody in town, kids, women included, which that was kind of creepy. And there's even this Japanese girl who's dressed up in like a schoolgirl outfit that's drawing him naked. And once he takes his underwear off, which is the traditional rope underwear that Japanese samurais would wear, she erases it and draws his dick, right? And there's a funny line where the Japanese girl is like, "Show us your balls" in like broken English, which was that was funny, right? So he makes him wear this leather suit that has bombs attached to his like parts of his body, and depending on what kind of they have neural sensors, so depending on what thoughts he's thinking, if he thinks about hitting like a woman like Bernice, right, a bomb will go off on one of his arms. If he thinks about having sex with Bernice, bombs by his balls will explode. And if he doesn't complete his mission within like a certain time frame, the bombs by his neck will explode, right? And he has like a voice box on his left wrist where if he finds Bernice, she has to speak her name into it, and then he has like 2 extra days, right? So like Bernice ran away from her dad in Samurai Town ran away and gets lost in the Ghostlands, which the Ghostlands, that's where it turns Mad Max, right? Where the Ghostlands is basically haunted by the ghosts of prisoners that on a transport bus ran into like a vehicle carrying nuclear waste or something, which caused a nuclear explosion. So you have like nuclear irradiated like ghosts haunting the wastelands, right, outside of Samurai Town. And there's even like an enclave of survivors in the Ghostlands that help Nicolas Cage, right, and look after Bernice. So he finds her right away in the movie. And like a lot of the movie, there's not a lot of action scenes, right? It's mostly you learning the backstories between like, you know, Nicolas Cage and Bernice, right? And like, you know, figure out this, like, basically learning the story of this world, right? Until like the very end, where like they figure out how to solve the curse of the Ghostlands, and they go and uh, have the final confrontation between the governor and Yasujiro, right? And that's where it gets like crazy. Well, there is action scenes in this movie, but it's mostly some in the beginning, but most of the action scenes is at the very end, right? And it's not too crazy, right? Though there is some gore, right? Spoiler alert. He gets turned on by Bernice, who is traumatized from the ghost, who's tried to hide herself inside a mannequin. She's wearing this mannequin outfit. A lot of the people who are traumatized by the ghosts of the prisoners of the Ghostland, which are the ghosts, try to hide themselves in these like mannequin suits. And he takes out her mannequin suit, and she's like in her like underwear pretty much, and he gets horny, and one of the bombs by his balls goes off, right? And like he loses one of his balls. So he has this like speech at the end where he's like trying to rally the people of the enclave by the prisoners of the Ghostlands, right? And he's like, I didn't think I would lose one arm and one testicle. He just screams that out, that he lost one of his balls. And like that's where like Nicolas Cage does his crazy performance. In the poster they have him with like two katanas. He doesn't actually carry katanas. He carries like his main weapon at the end of the film is like he gets his arm gets damaged, so they put like this metal brace on it, and like a katana blade comes out, but it's like a short sword. But like it looks pretty cool. Yeah, it wasn't too bad. But like here's the thing with the movie, it's kind of like it's basically like a bad acid trip, right? It's like the movie pays homage to like, you know, Escape from New York, right? And Mad Max, right? And yeah, it just pays homages to those two movies, right? And like, oh, I forgot there's this cool synthwave soundtrack, right? But like the movie is mostly story driven, and that's because, you know, a lot of Japanese films don't have big budgets, because despite the fact that economically Japan is a powerhouse, they're a very small country, right? And Japanese movies outside of Japan are still niche, right? So they're not like China and Korea, where they have huge markets where they can invest a lot of money into their budgets, right? So this movie has a limited budget, so like there's not. So that's why, in my opinion, there's not as much crazy action and gore as a lot of people thought there would be in the trailer, and that's why people think the film is disappointing. But honestly, in my mind, I think a lot of people heard Nicolas Cage say this is one of the craziest movies he ever been in, and we're expecting like Mandy levels of craziness, right? Which that there isn't any there's not like Mandy level of craziness, but there's just like, you know, weird Japanese shit in the film, right? Which that's probably what he meant, and that this is like the first movie where he probably like he lost a testicle and he's holding his testicle in his hand. So that's probably what he meant by this is one of the craziest films he ever done, right? So like I think if you go in expecting like fucking an action film, like a crazy action film, you're going to be disappointed. But if you're a fan of like cool Japanese films, right, and crazy Nicolas Cage performances, right, with cool aesthetics, so there's a lot of cool aesthetics in the film, I think you'll enjoy it. But like, you know, don't get your hopes like don't don't go in with too high expectations, right? I'm giving this film a 6.5 out of 10. It has its problems, which is mostly budget related, but I thought overall it was a great film, and the action scenes, what little there are, were good, but though not as gory. Though I thought there was like action scenes that did not make a lot of sense, where Yasuhiro, the badass character, was pretty much going around killing other samurai in the town that you would think all worked for the same guy. So that I didn't really understood that, but whatever, right? It was. I think it's like, oh, they need more action scenes, so they just had like Yasuhiro once in a while kick ass, right, with the other samurais, with the other samurais in Samurai Town, right. And it was a way of also showing how much of a badass Yasuhiro was, which he was a pretty cool villain, but he just kind of let himself get killed at the end, which I think it was the thing where, like, you know, he was like, you know, he was like a samurai who had like his samurai code where you have to serve your master till death, right? And he was just sick of his master and just wanted to die, right? Because the governor, played by Bill Moseley, who does a great job in the film, is a scumbag, and it's implied that he molests his granddaughters, which I'm not 100% sure if that's accurate, but it's like, yeah, dude, yeah. So yeah, that's my review, and obviously, sorry if I don't use a lot of pics from this film. I have to be careful of copyright, and it's a new movie, so there's not going to be a lot of screenshots online. Alright, that are copyright free, if you know what I mean. So, sorry about that. And, yeah, that's it for this review, and, peace.